The shocking betrayal. The last text before forever. The champagne was already poured when Maya Rivera's phone lit up with a message that would shatter her entire world. In 6 hours, she'd walked down the aisle toward Daniel Cross, the man who'd spent 3 years convincing her that soulmates were real. In 6 hours, she'd promised forever to the only man she'd ever truly loved. But right now, in this quiet hotel room, with her wedding dress hanging like a ghost behind her, Maya stared at 3 words that made her hands shake so violently the phone nearly slipped through her fingers. Check the video. The sender was blocked. Unknown. But the attachment loaded anyway, a 42-second clip that would replay in Maya's mind for the rest of her life, changing the rhythm of her heartbeat forever. She pressed play. The video was grainy, shot from a doorway, but the voices were crystal clear. Daniel's voice. The voice that had whispered promises into her ear every night for 3 years. The voice that had said, "I choose you 1,000 times." That voice was laughing now, breathless, intimate, wrapped around words that felt like knives sliding between her ribs. "She has no idea," Daniel said. "Maya thinks we're building a life together. She thinks tonight's our rehearsal dinner. She doesn't know I'm here with you." The camera shifted. Maya's breath stopped, because the woman in Daniel's arms, the woman whose lips were trailing along his neck, whose fingers were unbuttoning his shirt with the familiarity of routine, wasn't a stranger. It was Vanessa Cole, Maya's best friend since college, her maid of honor. The woman who'd helped her choose the wedding dress currently hanging in this very room. The woman who'd held Maya while she cried over wedding stress. The woman who'd promised, just 2 days ago, "I'll always have your back." Maya's vision blurred. The phone slipped from her grip, landing on the carpet with a soft thud. But the audio kept playing. Vanessa's voice, breathy and cruel. "When are you going to tell her?" Daniel's response, casual as ordering coffee after the honeymoon. "I need her father's investment in my company first. The wedding's just business, Van. You're the one I actually want." The video ended. The room fell silent except for Maya's ragged breathing. Her reflection stared back at her from the full-length mirror. A bride-to-be in a silk robe, hair in curlers, face carefully made up for the rehearsal dinner scheduled in 90 minutes. She looked like a woman about to celebrate love. She felt like a woman who'd just been buried alive. Hashtag the mask of a broken bride. Maya didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't call her mother or her sister or anyone who might talk her out of what she was already planning. Instead, she picked up her phone with hands that had stopped shaking and became very, very still. The kind of still that comes before storms. The kind of still that dangerous women know how to wear like armor. She forwarded the video to her own email, created 3 backup copies. Then, she deleted the original message, cleared her phone's cache, and stood up. Her reflection had changed. The woman staring back at her now had eyes like winter. Maya knew something Daniel and Vanessa didn't know. She'd spent the last year helping her father build his investment empire. She knew every contract, every clause, every legal loophole. She knew exactly how to destroy someone financially. And more importantly, she knew how to smile while doing it. The rehearsal dinner was being held at the Rosewood Estate, the same venue as tomorrow's wedding. 200 guests, an orchestra, 7-course meal. Daniel's entire family, including his mother, who'd made it very clear she thought Maya wasn't good enough for her son. Maya's father, Vincent Rivera, who was flying in from Hong Kong specifically to announce his $50 million investment in Daniel's tech startup. And Vanessa, who'd arrive wearing the dusty rose bridesmaid dress Maya had personally selected, who'd toast to eternal friendship, who'd hug Maya and whisper reassurances while her lipstick still tasted like betrayal. Maya opened her suitcase and pulled out the dress she'd chosen for tonight, a stunning red silk gown that hugged every curve, with a neckline that Daniel had once called too daring for a family event. She'd bought it anyway. Now she understood why. Some part of her had known. Some instinct had whispered that she'd need armor that looked like confidence. She did her makeup differently than planned. Bolder, red lips, sharp eyeliner. The kind of face that doesn't ask for mercy. The kind of face that gives none. Hashtag a toast to poison. The Rosewood estate glittered like a jewelry box. Chandeliers dripped light over tables dressed in white and gold. Roses, Maya's favorite, or what she thought was her favorite before learning they were also Vanessa's, bloomed in crystal vases. The orchestra played softly, a romantic melody that now sounded like a funeral march. Maya arrived alone, exactly 15 minutes late. Every head turned. The red dress did its job. She looked devastating. Daniel's eyes widened when he saw her, and for a split second, she saw something that might have been guilt flicker across his face. But then, his politician's smile locked into place. The same smile that had sold her a future that never existed. And he crossed the room with arms outstretched. "There's my beautiful bride," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. He tried to kiss her, but Maya turned her head slightly, so his lips caught her cheek. She felt him stiffen, felt the question in his touch. But she smiled, bright, perfect, deadly, and took his hand. "Sorry I'm late," she said sweetly. "I was taking care of some last-minute details." She let her gaze drift across the room until it landed on Vanessa, who stood near the bar in that dusty rose dress, champagne in hand, face frozen in something between fear and defiance. Maya's smile widened. "Van, you look absolutely radiant. Come, let's sit together. I have so much to tell you." The dinner progressed like theater. Courses appeared and disappeared. Wine flowed. Daniel's father made a speech about finally getting a daughter worthy of our family name. Maya's mother cried tears of joy. And through it all, Maya played her part flawlessly. The blushing bride, the devoted daughter, the loyal friend. She laughed at jokes, squeezed Daniel's hand, even hugged Vanessa twice, whispering, "I'm so glad you're here," while feeling Vanessa's body go rigid with unspoken secrets. When dessert arrived, a tower of cream puffs dusted in gold leaf, Maya's father stood. Vincent Rivera commanded rooms without effort. At 63, he'd built an empire from nothing, and his presence carried the weight of that power. The room fell silent. "I want to make an announcement," Vincent said, his accent still carrying traces of his Mexico City childhood. "Tomorrow, my daughter marries a man I've come to respect and trust." He turned to Daniel, raising his glass. "Daniel, you've proven yourself worthy of Maya's love and my confidence. Which is why, effective Monday morning, Rivera Industries will be investing $50 million in cross technologies." The room erupted in applause. Daniel stood, face flushed with triumph, and embraced Vincent. Maya watched them, these two men. One who actually loved her, and one who'd convinced her he did. And she felt something cold and certain settle in her chest like snow that would never melt. However, Vincent continued, and the room quieted again. "There is one condition." Daniel's smile faltered microscopically. "Of course," he said smoothly. "Whatever you need." Vincent's eyes moved to Maya. "My daughter must approve the final contracts. Her signature, alongside mine, makes this investment official. Without her consent, there is no deal. The weight of those words hung in the air. Maya stood slowly, glass in hand, and every eye in the room fixed on her. She could see Daniel calculating, see Vanessa's knuckles white around her champagne flute, see her mother's confused expression, see the exact moment when her father's gaze told her he knew something was wrong and was giving her power to handle it. "I'd like to make a toast," Maya said, her voice carrying crystal clear across the room. She looked directly at Daniel. "To love. The kind that's real. The kind that doesn't hide in dark corners. The kind that doesn't need rehearsal dinners to practice honesty." Daniel's face went pale. Vanessa set down her glass like it had turned to poison. Maya continued, smile never wavering. "And to tomorrow," she said, "when truths come into the light." She drank. The room drank with her. But in that moment, three people knew tomorrow's wedding would be nothing like anyone expected. Hacked the night before war. After the dinner ended, after guests filtered out with full stomachs and romantic notions, after her parents retired to their suite and the staff began cleaning up, Maya found herself alone on the estate's terrace. The night air smelled like jasmine and imminent rain. Behind her, she heard footsteps. "Maya," Daniel's voice. Careful, probing. She didn't turn around. "That was quite a toast," he continued. "Are you okay? You seemed different tonight." Maya finally turned. In the moonlight, he looked like the man she'd fallen in love with. Tall, handsome. Those green eyes that had once made her believe in destiny. Now she just saw a stranger wearing a familiar face. "I'm perfect," she said. "Just excited for tomorrow." He stepped closer, reaching for her hand. "Listen, about the contract thing with your father." "Don't worry," Maya interrupted, pulling her hand away gently. "I'll sign whatever you need. After all, that's what wives do, right? Support their husbands?" Relief washed over his features. "Exactly. God, I love you. You know that, right?" Maya looked at him for a long moment, memorizing the lie in his voice, the calculation behind his eyes, the casual way he wielded love like a weapon. "I know exactly what you are," she said quietly. Then, before he could respond, she walked past him back into the estate, leaving him standing alone in the dark. In her room, Maya pulled out her laptop. She had 12 hours until the wedding, 12 hours to prepare for the performance of her life. She opened a folder on her desktop, labeled "Wedding Plans," and began typing a very different kind of ceremony. Her phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. "We need to talk. Tomorrow." Before the wedding, Maya smiled at the screen, fingers flying over keys. "Of course," she typed back. "Let's meet early. 7 a.m. in the bridal suite. Just you and me, like old times." She pressed send, closed her laptop, and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, Daniel Cross would stand at an altar expecting a bride. Tomorrow, Vanessa Cole would arrive expecting to play maid of honor to a woman she'd betrayed. Tomorrow, 200 guests would gather expecting a celebration of love. What they'd get instead would be something else entirely. Maya closed her eyes. For the first time since watching that video, she felt something other than pain. She felt purpose. Cold. Clear. Absolute. Tomorrow wasn't a wedding day anymore. Tomorrow was the day she'd teach two people a lesson they'd never forget. That revenge, when served with a smile and a signature, tastes sweeter than any wedding cake ever could. The wedding dress hung in the closet like a promise. But promises, Maya now understood, were just words people used before they showed you who they really were. And tomorrow, she'd show everyone exactly who she'd become. Heartbreak A&D Revenge. The morning after innocence died. Dawn broke over the Rosewood estate like a wound opening, pink and raw and unforgiving. Maya woke at 5:30 am, not from an alarm, but from the sheer electric anticipation coursing through her veins. She'd slept exactly 2 hours, but she felt more alert than she had in years. Clarity, she discovered, was insomnia's gift. And today, she needed to be absolutely clear. She dressed carefully in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, the costume of a bride still innocent, still unsuspecting, still just hours away from her happiest day. Then, she made coffee, checked her phone for the 100th time to ensure all her preparations were in place. And at exactly 6:45 am, she walked to the bridal suite. Vanessa arrived at 7:02, slightly late, slightly nervous, wearing designer athleisure that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. She'd always had expensive tastes. Maya wondered now how much of that lifestyle Daniel had been funding. How many secret gifts, how many lies dressed up as friendship. "Hey," Vanessa said, her voice doing that thing it did when she was trying to sound casual, but wasn't. "You said you wanted to talk?" Maya gestured to the love seat near the window. "Sit, I made us tea. Chamomile, your favorite." Something flickered in Vanessa's eyes, surprise, maybe guilt, at being remembered. She sat, accepted the cup Maya handed her, and took a careful sip. Maya sat across from her, studying her former best friend like an art piece she was finally seeing clearly after years of standing too close to appreciate the full picture. "I wanted to thank you," Maya began, "for everything you've done for this wedding. The planning, the support, the advice. You've been instrumental in getting me to this moment." Vanessa's grip tightened imperceptibly on her teacup. "Of course, that's what friends do." The word friends came out slightly strangled. "Is it?" Maya tilted her head. "Is that what friends do? Help each other? Support each other's happiness?" She let the questions hang, watched Vanessa's throat work. "Because I've been thinking a lot about friendship lately, about loyalty, about what people are willing to sacrifice for the people they claim to love." "Maya, when did it start?" Maya interrupted, her voice still soft, but now carrying an edge like silk over razor blades. "With Daniel." "When did it start?" The color drained from Vanessa's face. She set down her tea with a shaking hand. "I don't." "The rehearsal dinner 2 months ago," Maya continued, as if Vanessa hadn't spoken. "The one where you and Daniel accidentally got locked in the wine cellar for 40 minutes. That was the first time, wasn't it? Or was it earlier? Was it last year when you two went to San Francisco for that conference, while I stayed behind with the flu? Or maybe it started even before he proposed to me. Maybe I was always just the placeholder." Tears started streaming down Vanessa's face, but Maya felt nothing. No satisfaction. No pity. Just the cold, clinical observation of a scientist watching a predicted reaction occur. "Maya, I'm so sorry. Don't." The word came out sharp enough to cut. "Don't you dare apologize to me. Apologies are for mistakes, for accidents. You don't accidentally sleep with your best friend's fiancé for months. You don't accidentally lie to someone's face every single day while destroying them from the inside. That's not a mistake. That's a choice." Vanessa stood abruptly. "Then what do you want from me? You want me to grovel? Fine. I'm garbage. I'm a terrible person. Daniel and I, we're terrible people. But Maya, you have to understand, we didn't mean for it to happen. It just what?" Maya stood too, and suddenly the room felt much smaller. It just felt right. It just was too strong to resist. "Please don't insult both of us by pretending this was some great love story. I've seen the texts. I've heard the recordings. This wasn't passion. This was convenience. I was the respectable fiancé from the good family with the rich father. You were the fun distraction who didn't require commitment. Vanessa's eyes widened. What recordings? Maya smiled then, a real smile, sharp and brilliant and absolutely terrifying. Oh, Van, did you really think I'd come to you without knowing everything? I've known for 3 weeks. That video someone sent me yesterday, I sent that to myself from a burner phone. I wanted to see your face at the rehearsal dinner. I wanted to watch you both squirm. And you know what? It was worth every second of pretending I didn't want to destroy you both. 3 weeks? Vanessa's voice came out as a whisper. You've known for 3 weeks and you didn't say anything? Because I'm not stupid, Maya said coldly. I don't react. I plan. And I've had 3 very productive weeks, Van. Learning things, discovering things, building things, like cases, evidence, consequences. Vanessa backed toward the door, face now completely white. What did you do? Me? Nothing yet. The wedding's in 4 hours. I haven't done anything except be the perfect bride, the perfect daughter, the perfect fool. Maya moved closer, voice dropping to something almost intimate. But ask me again in 5 hours. Ask me after Daniel stands at that altar expecting a wife and a $50 million investment. Ask me after he realizes what it costs to underestimate someone who actually loved him. You can't. I can. And I will. Now get out of my bridal suite, Van. You're not my maid of honor anymore. You're not even my guest. You're just someone who thought love was a game and is about to learn how wrong you were. Hashtag the bride who burned her own altar. Vanessa fled. The doors slammed. Maya stood alone in the bridal suite, surrounded by flowers and makeup, and the white dress that hung like a ghost in the corner. And for the first time since discovering the betrayal, she let herself feel it. All of it. The rage and heartbreak and humiliation crashing over her like waves trying to drown her. She gripped the edge of the vanity, knuckles white, breath coming in short gasps. Then she looked up at her reflection. Red-rimmed eyes, pale face, broken posture. She forced herself to straighten, to breathe, to remember why she was doing this. Not for revenge, or not just for revenge, for justice, for closure, for every woman who'd ever been used as a stepping stone to someone else's success. The door opened again. This time, her mother. Maya? Isabella Rivera's voice carried concern and confusion. I just saw Vanessa running through the hallway crying. What happened? Is everything okay? Maya met her mother's eyes in the mirror. Isabella had been married to Vincent for 37 years. She'd stood by him through bankruptcies and bad investments and the brutal early years when everyone said he'd fail. She understood loyalty. She understood betrayal. And she understood her daughter. Mom, Maya said quietly, I need to tell you something. By the time Maya finished talking, Isabella's face had gone through a journey of expressions. Shock, fury, grief, and finally, cold determination. Maya had inherited many things from her mother. Her dark hair, her sharp cheekbones, her ability to survive. But she'd also inherited something less visible. The capacity to protect herself and the people she loved with absolute ruthlessness when necessary. What do you need from me? Isabella asked simply. Maya pulled out her phone and showed her mother the video, watched Isabella's jaw tighten, then pulled up a different document. I need you to tell Dad exactly 3 things. First, don't sign any contracts today, no matter what Daniel says. Second, have his lawyers review every document I'm going to give him. Third, trust me. Isabella studied her daughter for a long moment, then nodded. Your father gave you control over that investment for a reason. He knew you were ready. I think he also knew something wasn't right with Daniel, even if he couldn't put his finger on it. She cupped Maya's face. Whatever you're planning, make it count. I will. After her mother left, Maya began preparing, not for a wedding, for war. She showered, dried her hair, began the process of becoming the bride everyone expected. But with each layer of makeup, each pin in her hair, each fastening of the wedding dress, she wasn't transforming into Daniel's wife. She was becoming the woman who would make them all understand that underestimating her was their biggest mistake. At 11 Tuluro am, exactly 1 hour before the ceremony, there was a knock. Her father this time. Vincent Rivera entered the bridal suite, closed the door, and looked at his daughter. Really looked. Your mother told me, he said, everything. Maya stood in her wedding dress, veil down, bouquet in hand, looking like a princess from a fairy tale. I'm sorry, Papa. For what? Vincent's voice was gentle. For being smart enough not to marry a fool? For having the courage to stand up when most would collapse? Maya, I raised you to be powerful. Today, you use that power. He handed her a folder. Everything you need, contracts, clauses, evidence Daniel doesn't know we have about his company. Your mother insisted I compile it after last night's toast. She said you had that look, the Rivera look, the one that means war. Maya opened the folder, scanned the contents, felt everything click into place. This is perfect, I know. Vincent's smile was sharp. I didn't build an empire by being merciful to people who underestimate my family. Daniel wanted my money. He'll get my attention instead. And trust me, Mia, he's going to wish he'd settled for obscurity. Papa, about the investment. There is no investment. Vincent interrupted. There never was. The announcement last night? That was bait. I wanted to see how he'd react, how desperately he needed us, how far he'd go. He paused. I didn't expect him to go this far, to betray you like this. That part, his voice cracked slightly. That part makes me want to destroy him in ways that have nothing to do with business. Then let me handle it, Maya said. Let me do this my way. Vincent studied her, and she saw the exact moment he stopped seeing his little girl and started seeing the woman she'd become. What do you need? Get everyone to the ceremony. Every single guest. Tell them the bride is ready. And Papa? Make sure Daniel's at that altar thinking everything is going according to plan, at the altar of broken promises. The Rosewood Estate Chapel was a confection of white roses and candlelight. 200 guests filled the pews, dressed in their finest, tissues ready for tears of joy. The string quartet played Pachelbel's canon. Daniel stood at the altar in his custom Tom Ford tuxedo, looking like a magazine cover, flanked by his groomsmen, his brother, his college roommates, men who'd congratulated him last night on landing a Rivera. Vanessa was notably absent from the bridal party. In her place, Maya's cousin Sophia stood in the dusty rose dress, confused but loyal, ready to support whatever was about to happen. The music changed. The traditional wedding march. Guests stood. The doors opened, and Maya appeared, arm linked with her father's, veil down, bouquet of white roses and baby's breath trembling slightly in her hands. She looked perfect, virginal, radiant, devastatingly beautiful in her ivory gown with its cathedral train and delicate lace sleeves. She looked exactly like what Daniel thought she was, his ticket to legitimacy, wealth, and a future built on someone else's broken dreams. They walked down that aisle slowly, Vincent's hand steady on Maya's arm, and she could feel every eye on her, could hear the sighs and whispers about how lovely she looked, how perfect they were together, how romantic this all was. The same guests who, in about 5 minutes, would witness something very different from romance. When they reached the altar, Vincent didn't immediately give Maya's hand to Daniel. Instead, he held it for a moment, looked Daniel dead in the eye, and said loud enough for the first 3 rows to hear, "Take care of my daughter," or "Answer to me." Then he kissed Maya's cheek and stepped back. Daniel's smile was pure confidence. He thought he'd won, thought $50 million was about to become his, along with a beautiful wife he'd continue lying to while sleeping with her former best friend. Maya could see it in his eyes. The calculation, the triumph, the smug certainty of a man who believed he was smarter than everyone around him. The officiant cleared his throat. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." "Actually," Maya interrupted, her voice carrying clear and strong through the chapel, "there's something I need to say before we continue." The officiant blinked. Daniel's smile faltered. A ripple of confusion moved through the guests. Maya lifted her veil, revealing her face fully for the first time. Makeup perfect, expression serene, eyes absolutely lethal. "Daniel," she said, looking directly at him, "do you love me?" He recovered quickly, reaching for her hands. "Of course I do. More than anything." "Maya, what? Don't." She pulled her hands back. "Don't lie. Not here. Not in front of all these people. Not in front of God if you believe in that sort of thing." She turned to face the guests, addressing them directly. "I need you all to witness something. Because this isn't a wedding anymore. It's a reckoning." "Maya, you're upset," Daniel said, voice low, trying to sound concerned while his eyes flashed panic. "Wedding jitters are normal. Let's just." She ignored him, pulling a small remote from somewhere in the folds of her dress. Behind the altar, a screen descended. A screen she'd had the venue install yesterday, telling them it was for a surprise wedding video. She pressed play. The same video from yesterday played on that screen. 42 seconds that would brand themselves into every guest's memory. Daniel's voice, confessing that Maya was just a business arrangement. Vanessa's face, clearly visible, lips on Daniel's neck, the casual cruelty of after the honeymoon. "I need her father's investment first." The chapel erupted. Gasps, shouts. Daniel's mother screamed something incomprehensible. Daniel himself went absolutely white, frozen, as if he could make this unhappen by sheer stillness. Maya let the chaos build for exactly 15 seconds, then held up her hand. The room quieted, desperate to hear what came next. 3 weeks ago, Maya said, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart, "I learned that the man I loved, the man I planned to build a life with, had been sleeping with my best friend for months. That he saw me not as a partner, but as a transaction. That our love story was actually just a con game where I was the mark." She turned back to Daniel, who looked like he was trying to find words, trying to calculate a way out, but his usual silver tongue had turned to lead. "For 3 weeks, Maya continued, I've been planning this moment. Not because I'm cruel, but because I needed you to understand something. You don't get to use people and walk away clean. You don't get to break someone's heart and still collect your prize." "Maya, I can explain." Daniel finally found his voice, but it came out desperate, pathetic. "You can't," she said simply. "There's no explanation that makes this okay. But what you can do is listen while I explain what happens next." She pulled a folder from her cousin Sophia's hands. Maya had given it to her earlier, with simple instructions. "Hold this, don't open it, hand it to me when I ask. My father announced last night that he'd invest $50 million in your company. You need that money, Daniel. Without it, Cross Technologies folds in 6 months. I know this because I've spent 3 weeks reviewing your actual financial records. The real ones, not the doctored ones you showed my father." She opened the folder, showed him documents that made his face go from white to green. Embezzlement from your previous investors, fraud, misappropriation of funds, all documented, all provable. This is Daniel reached for the papers, but Maya stepped back. All legal, she finished, and all going to the SEC on Monday morning. Unless, she paused, let the word hang. Unless you agree to my terms, the chapel was dead silent. Even the children had stopped fidgeting. Every eye was locked on Maya, on this bride, who transformed into something else entirely. Not a victim, not a revenge fantasy, but a woman wielding power with surgical precision. What terms? Daniel asked, voice barely above a whisper. Maya smiled. First, you sign over 30% of cross technologies to me. Not as your wife, since we're clearly not getting married. As compensation for fraud and emotional damages, 30%? That's non-negotiable. Second, you publicly admit what you did. Here. Now. In front of everyone. No spin. No excuses. Just truth. Third, you leave Vanessa's life immediately and completely. She deserves someone who doesn't use people as pawns.